Hi folks, welcome back. Thank you for watching. Please do hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. It really does help when you do that. So today folks, this is a video that you folks have asked for quite a bit, and it's all about this guitar here, my blonde / slightly yellow Fender Strat. Because whenever I bring this out for a demo video, I get a lot of comments asking about it. And in one of my end of month Q&A videos recently, I said that if there was enough interest, I would make a sort of video all about this guitar and how I came to own it and its current specs and things. And quite a few of you actually commented saying you'd like to see that. So that's what I'm going to do today, tell you all about this guitar. So rewind to 2012. I was 22 in my final year of university doing a music degree. And as part of that final year, I had to write a dissertation, and I chose to do mine all about record labels. Did you need to sign to one back in 2012 when you can just release music yourself for free online? And also the indie versus major debate. So as part of that dissertation, I set up 2 interviews, both in London. One with the boss of an independent record label, and one with, it wasn't the boss, but somebody very high up in Universal Records. So I travelled to London, interviewed the indie lady first thing in the morning, and I had to wait a good few hours to interview the person from Universal. So I did what I always do when I've got a few hours to kill in London, which was go to Denmark Street. And if you don't know, it's a very iconic street, the old Tin Pan Alley with just guitar shops pretty much. It's changing a bit nowadays, but back then at least it was just pure guitar shops. So it's kind of heaven for somebody like me and probably you. So I love going to Denmark Street, but there's only so excited I can get because of course almost all of the guitars hanging up in the shops are right-handed, so I can't ever aspire to own them or play them. So I love going to like the vintage and rare guitar shop and looking at old Fender Broadcasters and 60s 335s and things, but it's just eye candy for me. I can look at them and admire them, but I could never even pick one up and play it. So I was walking around these shops and dribbling over stuff I couldn't afford, and I went to a shop called Regent Sound, which is a very iconic shop on the street. And I was looking around, I think there was like a Gretsch Streamliner there, but not much in left hand. And then I saw this guitar hanging up. And I do have a photo on an old hard drive that I'll try to dig out of it hanging up in the shop before I bought it. And first and foremost, you'll see how white it was. It's gone completely yellow over the years. And I took the pickguard off to photograph the electrics before I started shooting this video. And as you'll see with the picture on screen now, you can see the outline of where everything's yellowed and underneath the pickguard is still pretty white. So it's definitely changed colour over time. It looks like Homer Simpson now. So it was hanging up in this shop, and when I was in my early 20s, I was, kind of as I am today really, I was a rocker. I wanted to play Gibson guitars into Marshall amps. I grew up listening to AC/DC and Thin Lizzy and The Darkness and bands like that. I wanted to play Gibsons into Marshalls pretty much. I didn't really care for Fenders back then. And when I was 13 or so 18 or so years ago, I bought myself a cheap Mexican Telecaster. And I even hated the bridge pickup on that back then because it was just too thin and scratchy. So I had it routed out to accommodate a Gibson humbucker because I just wanted it to sound like a Les Paul. That's the sound I was into. And I went to uni with a guy who played a Fender Strat, and I absolutely hated the sounds he got out of that guitar. They weren't me at all. They were thin and scratchy and horrible. Just didn't care for them. So I was not a Strat guy whatsoever. But I saw this guitar hanging up, and there was just something about it that drew my eye to it. It might be because it was completely natural in colour, which I think looks cool, but I just wanted to pick it up and play it, which was completely unlike me, not being a Strat guy in any way, shape or form. So I spoke to one of the people working in the shop. They got it down off the wall for me, plugged it into a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe or something, and I had a little play, and I really bonded with this instrument. I really loved the sounds I was getting out of it. Now, I didn't really know anything about Fender guitars back then, and I was told that it's not a real Fender, it's a parts caster, and it had been put together, so say, by one of the other owners of one of the other shops on Denmark Street. So I knew it wasn't a real Fender, so it was going to be a little bit less money, but it was still more than I could afford to just blow on a whim in the guitar shop when I was killing time as a student in London. So I kind of, played it and really liked it, but put it back on the wall and went back home. Went to interview the Universal lady and then went home. But I couldn't get this guitar off my mind, and I just really wanted it, and I was umming and ahhing over it. It was a little bit more than I could afford, but I lasted about a week, and then I cracked, phoned up Regent Sounds. They did me a really good deal over the phone, and they shipped it to me at university, and it's been in my hands ever since. So I have used this guitar a lot over the years. I've changed a lot of things about it. I was also told when I bought it that it had, quote, hand-wound Swedish pickups in it. That's all I knew. So I've used this a lot, and about a year or so ago, I was doing some work for a UK speaker company called Fane, amazing guitar speakers, and I put up a demo video of their A60 Alnico speaker. And I got a message on my music Facebook page from a chap, and I did write his name down so I didn't forget it, Andre Nikula, and he said, I love your A60 demo video. Are you playing my Strat that I sold in Regent Sounds on Denmark Street in around 2012? I was like, yeah, I think I probably am. So I asked him a few questions. I said, look, I was told it was a parts caster, but I don't know anything about it really, and I was told it had hand-wound Swedish pickups. What were they? And he said, yeah, that's absolutely right. It's a Fender USA body and a Fender USA neck. So in construction, it's basically a USA Fender Strat, but not one that ever rolled off the production line and has a serial number. So it's just a neck and a body stuck together. And the pickups were Lundgren pickups. Now, they were sort of 60s voiced pickups, which I was after a slightly different sound for this guitar. So its current specification is, the only thing that's actually original to this guitar from when I bought it is the body, the neck and the pickguard. Everything else has been gutted. Oh, and the tuners. So the pickups I've got in here now are Lindy Fralin Real 54s, which are essentially the replicas of the earliest Strat pickups when they were using Alnico 3 magnets. Because for the first few months that the Strat ever existed, Fender used Alnico 3 magnets, and then presumably because they put it alongside a P90 Les Paul of the day and thought it sounded a bit thin, they switched to using Alnico 5 to kind of beef it up a little bit. But these are the sort of earliest Alnico 3 replicas. In terms of pots, I'm running VI pots in here, two 80Ks in the volume and the first tone, but I do wire this, as a lot of people do, with the bottom tone knob wired to the bridge pickup, not the middle. So you can kind of roll it off and make it sound a little bit darker, like a humbucker for more gainy stuff. But because when I did that, it was rolling off a little bit of top end, which I didn't want, this is a 550K pot. 5-way switch, not a 3-way like the earlier Strats would have been, but essentially it's wired pretty conventionally, and it has the early 50s replica pickups in it. The bridge and trem block assembly is all Callahan. I went through a phase of modding all my hardware a while ago. Callahan springs even, that's how nerdy I got with it. So it's kind of done to sort of early 50s spec, but with a few little tweaks to make it more usable for me. But this is my only Strat I own. To be honest, I am slightly looking out for another one. I quite like a rosewood board with a 60s voice to it, but that's a bit of a pipe dream at the moment. But whenever I bring it out for videos, people are really interested in this guitar and say it sounds great. So as you will have heard at the start of the video, I love just plugging this into a non-master volume amp and absolutely diming it. So today I've got it plugged into my JTM 45 clone, which just sounds absolutely glorious going into. So that's pretty much the story, folks. Not a real Fender, it's a parts caster, it's got boutique electronics in it, and it was built by the chap, actually. It turns out that Andre Nikula isn't one of the guitar shop owners. He actually runs Highlight Electronics, which make kind of modern day reproduction / variations on a theme of the old high watt amplifiers. So I'd love to get my hands on one of those at some point and try playing this guitar through it. I think that could be a lot of fun. But yeah, so that's the story of it, folks. And yeah, it's a stunning sounding guitar, absolutely love it. I bring it out for demos a lot, and it's kind of a favourite of the people who watch this channel. So thank you, folks. I hope that was interesting because you guys did ask for it. Please do carry on subscribing. I know I always say it, but it does make a big difference when you do that. And today, as a bit of a change, I'm going to play you out with this magnificent instrument. So thanks, folks, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.